Huh? Now they're waiting to see what the hell we're doing. Slide right up. It's not the one we called up, is it? Man, that'd take a while. And this is how you come down. Whew, just like that, back in the man cave, just like that. A little rough this morning. I don't think I slept at all last night. I got some fierce indigestion last night. It feels like your whole insides are blowing up. Couldn't sleep. Sucks. Then my regular alarm clock went off at 4 o'clock. Oh well, whatever. Struggled through today. Rear right brake caliper seizing up on me, so now I have another unexpected job to do today. So is life. But anyway, back. Adventure dog super stoked and happy. She seems to be my big black fuzzy piece of living Velcro that sticks to me only. Now who do we got? What do we got? I can show you something. Check this out. I'll talk about it later at the end of the video. But look at this. Look at that. How crazy is that? How bizarre is that? They can make that. You know who got that made? And then I requested this. Black, white, gray. I like that. That's going to go good in my truck. Talk about that later at the end. Now, The late, great Bobby Short's going to be here today. Haven't heard from her for a little bit. She's still on the military bases. Experiences. Now listen to this. McGuire Air Force Base and Fort Dix Army Base. It's the title of this. A letter and possibly related story from Craig Bennett, Pemberton, New Jersey. Quote, Dear Miss Short, I've never seen a Bigfoot, found any tracks, or heard any sounds. Recently I discovered your website and thought out of curiosity to just take a look. The accounts by military personnel are interesting. The point is this. Back in December 1977, some 36 years ago, I was a freshman at Burlington County College located in Pemberton, New Jersey. Next door is McGuire Air Force Base and Fort Dix Army Base. So it was a common sight seeing military personnel in the college courses. While sitting in the snack bar and trying out my first cup of coffee, a soldier walked in and went over to a table, and then a second soldier arrived and went over to the first one and excitedly asked him if he'd heard about the news. He related that a platoon of soldiers on an exercise from, bracket, I'm not sure of the fort name and bracket, went into the woods to drill and were injured in an encounter with Bigfoot somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. The first soldier then looked around the room nervously, and the other soldier told him to not talk about it here. We'll do it later. I don't see them again, nor do I know of their names. Also, I really didn't look either because I was trying to pass my courses and experience college. Craig Bennett. If there's someone with information on a base encounter with Bigfoot where injuries were observed, please contact me. Now, go back to the next one. Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington, 1989. The following was told to Iraq veteran SSG Todd M. Neese, Sandy, Oregon. Quote, my friend who came to Fort Ord Training Center in Monterey, California in 1989 started his military career at 2nd Battalion 75th Joint Base Lewis McChord in southwestern Tacoma. He told me about an encounter somewhere in the Nisqually River in Washington State. The Nisqually drains part of the Cascade Range southwest of Tacoma, including the southern slope of Mount Rainier, and empties into the southern end of Puget Sound. The Nisqually River forms the Pierce-Lewis County line, as well as the boundary between Pierce and Thurston counties. A swimmer was dispatched across the Nisqually to recon the other side. Excuse me. He'd crept up the steep embankment on the other side, disappeared into the thick woods. After a few minutes, the recon man let out a scream and came flying back down to the Nisqually River and back across. He was in hysterics, saying that he'd, in effect, snuck up on a Bigfoot to their mutual surprise along the edge of a river. No surprise there, right? The creature freaked out and took off in the opposite direction. The other rangers heard the snapping of brush like something big hauling ass. The company crossed and did a quick recon of the area and found the usual distinctive big footprints, evidence of something large. The young soldier who had the encounter left the army not long afterwards. No doubt. I wonder if he's watching this channel. One of the other stories involved a company of Army Rangers on a night ambush. Sometime after they'd gotten into position, they heard a guy stalking them. They maintained fire discipline and waited for what they thought would be the rest of the OPFOR unit, excuse me, they were to hit. Instead, the, quote, guy, end quote, was alone. And as he came up to their position, he stopped. He then proceeded to stalk their perimeter. The ranger who tells the story marveled at the guy's expertise. After completing his recon, the guy slowly backed up the way he came and disappeared into the night, leaving a distinct odor behind. It seems like every guy I meet, excuse me, frog in my throat, excuse me. It seems like every guy I meet who was at Louis had a Bigfoot story or knew someone who did. If you are ex-military, you might have an in with those folks, although I couldn't tell you how to approach them, especially the Rangers. You know how they can be with us mere mortals. Mark Ferris, Carmel, California, Monday, 17th April 2000. Todd Neese re-enlisted in the Army and was deployed to Iraq in 2010-2011. Upon his return home, Todd talked freely about his own 93 sighting and recounts it here for the recording of that unusual event. Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington, 1993. April 3rd, 93 was a day that'll always be seared in my mind as if it were yesterday. As a sergeant in Charlie Company, 1249th Combat Engineers, it was business as usual. We headed up into the dense temperate rainforest of the Coast Range in northwestern Oregon. On that particular day, our mission was to conduct training on private timberland near Saddle Mountain, just east of the coastal resort town of Seaside. We would be executing demolitions, explosives, operations at 3 rock quarries. Each site had a unique battle scenario to accomplish. At the first site, we practiced cutting charges, essentially slicing through steel I-beams with C4 plastic explosive. Brow raise on the steel I-beams, right? The second site held a complex obstacle consisting of a field of surface-laid anti-tank mines followed by a triple-strand concertina wire fence. We were to clear a vehicle lane through both. The third and last training area was situated in yet another gravel quarry on a hillside that overlooked the second blast site. Here our mission was to emplace a cratering charge. As the name implies, this type of operation involves the making of a rather large hole. Generally, this is done to sever a road, thus denying the enemy its use. While at the second blast site, there was an unusual event, which in hindsight might have been related to my sighting. While I was directing my squad to emplace their charges next to the anti-tank mines, there was a rather loud, crescendoing whoop that emanated from the far west end of the minefield. And at that moment, I was bent over placing my own charge. Upon hearing this somewhat shrill noise, I immediately stood up and sought out the perpetrator as we were under orders to practice noise discipline during the exercise, in case the enemy were nearby. And as I glanced around the minefield, I was surprised to find all of my men still busily preparing their charges and not, as I suspected, goofing off. I shrugged my shoulders and went back to work, and in hindsight it seemed to me that the whoop sound came from farther back in the tree line. It should be noted that, absent a standard issue shaped charge, we had a backhoe pre-dig a starter hole. After emplacing several bags of diesel-soaked ammonium nitrate into the aforementioned hole, we packed the charge. Once again, the area was cleared. I initiated the dual-primed M60 fuse igniters. I took my place in the waiting convoy and, per standard operating procedure, we began the descent down the winding single-lane road to the safety staging area. As a squad leader, I had the privilege of requisitioning my own Humvee. No sleep screws a guy up. Ours was the second vehicle of a 5-vehicle convoy. 2 Humvees up front, 2 covered deuce-and-a-half trucks filled with troops, and the commander's Humvee taking up the rear. I sat behind the driver's seat, and as we were descending the graveled road down towards the staging area, I had the opportunity to sit back and enjoy the scenery. It is just second nature to me to spot for wildlife. It was a rare sunny day in April. I had my window unzipped for better view, and rounding the corner, I could see the rock quarry where we did our second blast less than an hour earlier. And standing right out in the open, in the middle of the gravel pit, were 3 jet black bipedal creatures. They stood in line, shoulder to shoulder, staring directly at our convoy as it descended the hillside across from them. Between us was a ravine populated with 8 12-year-old Douglas fir and hemlock. At a distance of several hundred meters, I could not make out facial features or gender, but there was no doubt what I was looking at were not humans. Had these creatures been standing in front of a backdrop of trees, I most likely would not have seen them at all. But in this case, there stood 3 dark black figures contrasted against a light gray cliff of basalt on a bright sunny day. In the middle stood what I assumed to be the alpha male of the group, as it towered a full head above the two creatures that flanked it. I would estimate it to have stood approximately 9 feet high, with the flanking creatures, approaching 7 feet in height. Their silhouette was unique in that their heads sat directly on their shoulders with no visible neck. They all displayed broad, square shoulders and barreled chests, which tapered down to a svelte waistline, unlike the creature seen in the Patterson-Gimlin film of '67. The arms of these beings hung well past their knees. In the case of the two flanking creatures, they were exhibiting a swaying motion, rocking side to side, as the larger creature stood as still as a statue. All the while I was staring at the creatures, we were bounding down a dirt road with the occasional hedge of blackberry and Scotch broom obscuring my view. I had approximately 25 seconds of viewing time. Being in shock and not knowing whether I should lose sight of them at any second, I stared in disbelief. One of the vehicles rounded a sharp corner, and I knew I'd seen the last of them. I fell back into my seat with a mixture of shock and what I had witnessed and an odd sense of depression. It's hard to explain what goes through one's mind in such a moment. My head began to swim with questions. They do exist, and not just a solitary beast, but a group of them. How could they exist and not be discovered? What do I do now? I felt the sudden urge to tell someone, but who? I'd seen something scientifically, if not historically, important, and someone should be notified. There must be some authority that needs this information. I began to make a mental checklist. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife? Nope. The Forest Service? Nope. The zoo? Nope. The police? Hell no. Then who? And more importantly, who would believe me anyway? Reluctantly, I decided, like most people do, to keep my mouth shut. Here I was, a family man, the vice president of a shipping company, and a non-commissioned officer in the Army National Guard. I'd worked long and hard for my reputation, and yet, with one simple sentence, I saw Bigfoot, I could throw it all away. If I knew it was good for me, I would never tell a soul. Arriving back at the staging area, I immediately jogged back up the road in a futile effort to get one more look at these amazing creatures. Unfortunately, there was a knoll which blocked my view of the gravel pit, and my activity hadn't gone unnoticed. Suddenly, I heard the footsteps heading my way, and the voice yelled out, "Hey, niece!" I turned and saw Sergeant Jeff Martin heading my direction, and as he approached, he looked over his shoulder to see if he was being followed. Satisfied that we were alone, he said something I'll never forget. He took a long drag off his cigarette, exhaled, looked me squarely in the eyes, and said, "I don't suppose you saw what I saw back at the second blast site." Excuse me. I could tell from the look in his eyes that he knew something. I felt overwhelmed with the possibility, but decided to err on the side of caution. I replied, "I don't know, Jeff, what did you see?" And once again, he looked left then right to make certain of our privacy, and then stated rather matter-of-factly, "I saw 3 huge hair-covered, for lack of a better word, big feet." Trying to contain my excitement, I hissed, "Yes, I saw them too." I was overwhelmed with a sense of utter relief. I wasn't alone after all. It wasn't that I needed validation of what I'd seen. Corroboration could have altered the truth, but it sure felt good. It felt liberating that we began to compare notes. SSG Todd M. Neese, Joint Base, Lewis McChord, Washington. And there you go. What a crazy story to wake up in the morning and say to yourself, I'm so bored and I need this attention. I wonder what story I should make up on my own, right? And who should I tell? Some kind of authority. Isn't it funny how our minds are trained to think that? We got to tell some authorities. We don't need authorities. We are authorities, right? The only people we need to tell is the people. That's it. All right, one more before I forget. I forgot to mention something. It's minor, kind of minor, but it is, but it isn't. Anyway, the other day, my friends who came out, our one super friend, they were like family. Dawn, she went through her cancer hell, and apparently it's showing up again on the other side of her chest right now. So there's a chance it might be, and she might have to go through it. That's another story. But anyway, I gave them a road map. It was super hot out because we caught all their fish. And I gave them a road map to this real awesome, secluded, undiscovered by the majority of the public swimming hole. And it's all rock bed for about, the bed of the river is rock for about 400 meters, 400 yards. And there's these little like hot tub shaped pools carved in the base on the bottom of it, filled with nice, clean, clear, warm water, like an unbelievable place to visit and go swim. And it's coincidentally the same river that I like to go steelhead fishing in the winter. And about possibly, a quarter mile to the west is where I know I saw one of these beings standing in the clear cut on my way to go fishing this year. A quick glance and then gone later. Anyway, my buddy, they went swimming there the day they arrived because I showed him how to get there before. And you know what it looks like, the timber on either sides of the river, because you've seen my video clips of that river system. But anyway, he is not interested in this topic at all. He's actually one of the guys who would always say to me, well, I got to see one myself first, right? Even though I told him, looked him in the eyes, and I babysat all the children forever. I'm the nanny. I'm the manny. They don't call me the nanny. I was the manny, right, when I lived over there. But anyway, until I showed him the video, and then the look on his face, and he went, oh, I didn't need to see that. And that showed me that he's actually, it upsets him. And he doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to have to deal with it. And I get it. Excuse me. So anyway, so we met them there. No, we all drove there together, all four of us. And we drove down there. We hiked out through the timber to the river. And we're swimming away, and all of a sudden he just casually goes, oh man, you should have heard the bear that was in there. So you got the rushing sound of the river, right? I'm like, what do you mean bear? Where? It was in that timber, breaking stuff. Really? A bear was in there breaking stuff? He goes, yeah, it was loud. He goes, it was real loud. Really? And he goes, it wasn't a Sasquatch. I'm like, I didn't say it was. And then we left it at that. So there you go. Happens all the time, right? In big, deep timber, two human beings in the river swimming, and real loud branches breaking like crazy right over top of the rush of the river. He said he yelled at it to leave, and then it eventually stopped. End of story. It's my little tidbit. But if you're taking notes of my experience as well as I go, it's another one to stick in the bucket from that particular zone this past year. U.S. Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia. How long is this one going to be? Because I want to hear... Well, it's a short one. I was once stationed at MCBQ Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia. I was a young Marine from East Sheldon, Vermont, and didn't know anything about Bigfoot at the time I was stationed at the base. I've been at the base about 5 months. When patrolling the grounds around my post one night, around 02:30 hours, I heard a noise and looked around for the source of that noise. It was unusual to hear anything in that area but night birds. Usually it's dead quiet. Nothing ever. Happened on that watch. To stay awake, you had to keep moving. It's a big military plane flying over. That's one of those big Hercules planes. Sorry. The area is heavily wooded and is known to have bears, but I never saw a single bear in that time in Quantico. My area was fenced with razor wire. I listened for any noise and then moved on taking 3 to 4 steps when I heard it again. This time the noise was behind me and sounded like it moved when I moved. I tried it again. A few steps, the noise took a few steps. It stopped when I stopped, and it didn't matter which direction I headed. This was out of order. I hollered, "Who goes there? Show yourself." There's silence. I repeated the order twice more, but heard and saw nothing. Rain began falling lightly, and the wind picked up some, and after I listened again for a long while, I moved on with no more activity. Then, 2 hours later, rain quit as I approached the same wooded area. The same noises, like something walking in the woods. This time I decided to head into the woods to scope out the noise, as nobody on base was supposed to be in that zone. Approaching the trees, I shined my light ahead, and not 30 feet away from where I stood, was this thing. It was a stopper. Surprised, I froze. What is it? I'm 6'4" high school basketball player, excuse me, and this Paul Bunyan thing was over my head by at least 2 feet. I swear on my life. It had beige/tan hair, and the damn thing had the hairiest body I've ever seen, and no skivvies. He was male, and it just stood there looking at me expressionless. I raised my rifle and asked who he was, but got no answer. Then I heard him breathing, and I got chicken skin all over me. Ma'am, this thing was a living nightmare to visualize. I raised my light up to see his face. He covered his eyes with his arm and backed off into the trees. He said nothing and made no noise leaving but the breathing. All I heard was the crunch of leaves. I did not follow. In fact, I thought I was some kind of expletive. Seeing things. You know, when you get that what the hell feeling? Here I was, half afraid of the booby hatch or a Section 8. I never told a living soul about that incident until now. Does Quantico have giant Bigfoot? I think that's what I faced that night. If Command knows about them, nothing was ever said around me. Semper Fi, James R., USMC. So many people, right? Especially military people. Military people too scared to say shit, let alone civilians, right? Now, it's interesting that he looked at it and decided to ask it in plain English who he was, right? Guessing he looked pretty human-like. And here comes the circling military plane again. Excuse me again. Now, what else? New emails. Alright, here we go. What's this one? These are all recent. The title of this email is Balls. I write to you having nothing to do with Bigfoot. I'm 67 years old and recently divorced, starting over, and have been debating on getting a Honda Goldwing that I've always wanted. There was a certain amount of hesitation, as I was told at my age it was too dangerous. Watching your videos has given me strength to be happy. A friend of mine used to say that it comes a time when you have to tell yourself, quote, quit being a pussy, unquote. Hear, hear. Well, I got the bike. And having the time of my life. I ain't no pussy. I got balls, even at 67. Thanks for your no bullshit attitude. It's a breath of fresh air. You can use my name, Bob Cummings. Bob, right on. Good for you. I hate seeing people losing quality of life because they're scared of shit. I love that email. Love it, love it, love it. Just be careful. Be frickin' careful. Excuse me. Coincidentally, my friend who's just here is the captain of the Whistler Fire Department. And we were bullshitting away on the boat. Word of caution, I'm not trying to scare you. But he said that, where Whistler is, it's like a mega party zone, celebrity playground, international ski resort, and the highway up there is incredible. And all those high-end vehicles and crotch rocket motorbikes doing Mach 5 up there, people doing drugs, drinking, partying. There's a lot of traffic deaths on that highway. And he said to the point now at the fire hall, they refer to motorcycles as donor cycles. Donor cycles. Be careful. Be careful. And everybody else out there this time of year, watch out for motorcyclists. Motorcyclists. All right, what do we got? Someone needs to be heard. This is titled Encounter. Feel free to use my name. Hey Steve, been watching your show now for I think 5 years. Holy shit, I can't believe it's been that frickin' long. It can't be. I know it has been since you told your own story for the second time. This is my family's encounter, and will span from February 2018 to April 2023. A few words about me and my family. My name is Israel Morgan. I'm married and we have one daughter. We've been married for 25 years and our daughter is currently 13. I retired from the Army in April 23 after 20 years of service. The first 14 years were with the 160th SOAR bracket AN bracket Special Operations Aviation Regiment Airborne Night Stalkers. The last 6 years of service was with 5th Aviation Regiment Airborne at Fort Polk, Louisiana. I held a top secret clearance with my entire Army career. In February 2018, I did a permanent change of station from Fort Campbell, Kentucky to Fort Polk, Louisiana. We lived in Hornbeck, Louisiana, about 18 miles east of Texas and 13 miles north of the base. It's a very remote part of LA with my closest neighbor half a mile away, who's also my landlord. Great guy. March 2018, I was sitting on my porch sipping some coffee, enjoying the extremely nice morning. Lots of sunshine and not a cloud in the sky. A perfect southern morning, which brings a puzzled look to my face when I heard the loudest tree snap and crash. It puzzled me, because there's absolutely no wind, so I was left wondering why it snapped. After a few minutes, I dismantled it. After a few minutes, I dismissed it as unusual, but not caring too much about it. Fast forward to January 2020. I just had a shoulder surgery for some severe wear and tear, so my wife and I enjoyed a walk to the woods, which happened to be in the direction of the snapped tree sound I heard 2 years prior. Lo and behold, there it was. Excuse me, and 10-inch diameter short leaf pine snapped about 12 feet off the ground. That sound I heard years prior came flooding back to my mind, and I mentioned to my wife that I thought it was the tree I heard snap. April 2021. My wife and I were sitting around a fire we had after we cooked some supper on a brio. It was dark. We had perfect weather that evening. And out of the blue, my dog Maggie tore ass toward what we thought was a deer. She always chased the deer into the woods and she would follow them for a bit. When she suddenly stopped and sat down, only about 30 yards from us, I didn't think much of it until my wife says, "What the hell is that?" So I looked to where she was staring, and there was Maggie sitting, staring at something with huge eyes. This thing's eyes were at least 9 feet off the ground, and I'm talking huge red eyes. A million thoughts are going through my mind, wondering how in the hell are these eyes glowing red? Red effing eyes and huge. This thing was staring at my dog. And when those eyes shifted from my dog to us, I told my wife we need to get in the house. We ran inside, got my flashlight, and suppressed a 300 blackout loaded with 150 grain FMG. When I got inside, there was nothing. That'd be freaking crazy to see that for real. So many have. Not me, but so many. Not yet. 2 weeks later, my wife and I took a walk down our dirt road. Close to the end of our road, we saw giant prints in the sand from 30 feet away. Talk about our world collapsing in on us. We knew instantly they were from a giant. One track measured 18 inches and another 12 inches. And there was one about 8. My guess is it was a male, a female, and a juvenile Sasquatch. My wife grabbed hold of me real quick and started saying, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. Let's go." So we got the hell out of there. She was truly scared. The next day I went and took pictures and measured the tracks. Attached you'll see the pictures of those tracks. July 2022, my nephew was down for a visit. He was outside, testing some tree climbing gear and came running inside, freaked out, telling us something huge just ran through the woods, tearing the shit out of everything. We all went running outside, looking in the direction he said the thing traveled, and my wife and I seen it, crouched down, staring at us. There was another quick about face and ran inside and got armed up. When we got back to the area, we seen nothing. Nothing worse than reading and having a frog in your throat. aloud. October 2022. I get up around 0300 to go outside and take a piss. I always take my flashlight with me to look for armadillos, as those things can tear the shit out of your property like wild hogs do. I see a deer and scare it into the woods, and then came the loudest, deepest growl I've ever heard, and it scared the shit out of me. I jumped back to my front door, ran inside, and after thinking for a few minutes of why it growled, I came to know it got pissed off because I scared its meal away. Maybe, maybe not. My daughter also seen this thing when coming home from town. She said it was solid black and had red eyes. She wasn't freaked out or anything. She just said, "Did you see that?" Of course, we didn't see it. She was also growled at, or infrasound was directed toward her in the house one night when my wife and I were changing clothes in our bedroom. She came knocking on our door asking us if we heard the growl and felt the vibration, which we didn't hear or feel anything. From 2018 to 2022, we constantly heard our house being slapped at night. Our house has metal siding. When hit, it is very loud. While at work, my wife would sit outside and she would hear whoops all the time. It doesn't take a genius to put the puzzle together to conclude this is a family of forest giants. Thanks for hearing our story, and thanks for giving people a voice. Indiana is on the map. Oh, that's your car. So I shared that picture already, but you forgot to throw down the photos of the footprints. They didn't come in the email. But if you want to send them, I'll share. Again, later on. And there you go. Ongoing stuff at home. Again, Louisiana. Amazing, isn't it? What an amazing handful of frickin' experiences your family had. More members of the Club of No Return, right? Didn't ask to join. Appreciate you sending that in, man. Appreciate your time. Big time. Thank you so much. This next email is titled "A Giant Bird in Southeast Texas." What is up with Southeast Texas? So much goes on there. Many other places too, but Southeast Texas? What's up? Hello, Steve. My name is Carrie Breyer, 68 years old. Army vet. Live in Northeast Connecticut. CT, Connecticut, I think. I was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, from March 75 to November 77. My visit happened around June of 77. I'd driven about 3 hours southeast from the post to pick up some truck parts. I was alone. The weather was totally clear, no clouds, perfect. I was returning to the fort when I noticed something dark flying to my right about half a mile away. This area is totally flat. No hills, no trees, a few small bushes here and there, no building signs, nothing. As wide open as the DFW airport. No traffic at all for about an hour. I can't remember the farm to market road number. So I'm watching what I thought was a small plane, Cessna size. Nothing else out there. Then it starts getting closer to me and lower. I remember thinking I've never seen a small plane painted dark brown, almost black. It keeps coming closer and lower. When it's a couple hundred yards away, I realize it's not a plane. It's a bird. What the F is it? It kept coming closer until it was about 10 feet over my pickup. It stayed about 10 feet over my truck for about 15 minutes, not 15 seconds. Huh? When it got close, I remember that one of those things When it got close, I remember that one of these things had grabbed a kid in May of 77 in Ohio or Illinois. Look it up. It was on the news. I never slowed down driving. Oh yeah, right, you're driving. Sorry, I was just picturing a pickup sitting there with it going over top, not moving. I never slowed down driving, but about 45 to 50 miles per hour, this bird would glide along above me, only flapping those wings maybe twice a minute. The wings were easily 2 full lanes or more wide. It kept up with me, no effort. Like it was a pet trained to fly above a vehicle. It never made a sound. It just flew right above my truck with little effort. I didn't honk my horn or do anything to disturb it, as I was totally amazed at this. Still am to this day. That was 47 years ago. This was not a pterodactyl or something like that. It was dark brown, almost black colored bird that was huge. I wish everyone could see one. Finally, the road took a sharp turn to the left and the bird kept going straight. I considered driving into the desert to follow it, but that was a no-go. It just kept going out of my sight. I never saw any further traffic during this for about an hour on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. The whole thing was and is unreal. I'm a lifetime non-drinker, non-smoker, no partying, etc. person. Was totally stone sober when this happened. Where's a Texas Ranger with a radio when you need one? Apparently these things were seen in Texas a number of times during this time. I have no witnesses, no photos, no audio. And remember, no cell phones in June of 77. And to all the people who ridicule people about their experience, you were not there. Most of us have seen and heard what we say we have. I've only told this to a few people over the years, as I have no proof. I think I told a platoon sergeant, but can't prove anything. I wish I could see it again, but I never returned to Texas after November of 77. This experience was so strange that it happened... This experience was so strange that if it happened today and I filmed it on a cell phone, no one would believe it. No doubt I would. Well, more than likely I would. Right, there you go. Hesitation on a video. I made this as short as possible. I hope you're still awake. No Bigfoot encounters yet, but they are definitely in Connecticut. 2 ambulance EMTs were almost killed by a pack of dogmen about 5 miles from me in Pomfret, Connecticut. The story's on another YouTube channel. It happened in 2010. Pay attention to the woods. Danger is everywhere. Stay safe, Steve. All right, there you go. Appreciate you sending it here, man. You shared it. You found your people, the safe place to share it with. I wouldn't mind a little more detail, like for a description, like did it have a curved, hooked beak like an eagle or a hawk, a raptor? You know what I mean? Was it a straight beak like a raven or a crow? Excuse me. Was its head the same color as the body? A lot of people see these flying frickin' monster birds. A lot of people claim to see pterodactyls. Do I believe it? Anything's possible. This lifetime is absolutely frickin' crazy. Maybe it's only crazy because we haven't been taught truth. We haven't taught everything. But we're learning. We're rapidly learning, right? We're rapidly picking it up. We're a little late to the game, but we're in the game. We're learning. Those lion sons of bitches, right? Okay, here's a short one. I think I better get going. Now I'm home. I got to get caught up. Got to get my truck fixed. What a pain in the ass, especially when you fix your own shit. It's not like I got enough. Like I don't have enough stuff to do already, right? And I got no sleep at all last night. Central Africa is the title of this email. Mr. Isdall, this is a question and not an encounter. I've never heard of a sighting in or around eastern Tanzania. This area is pretty dense forest and triple canopy jungle. Is it the lack of internet or sparsely populated areas why we don't hear of sabe sightings in this region of Africa? I've been to eastern Tanzania and it's as remote as it gets. Seemingly the perfect place for the sabe people to live. Yet, I've never heard of an encounter there. Just something to think about. Sir, respectfully, USMC retired. Jeff Harrington. Okay, Jeff, I don't know, man. I think possibly the reason we don't hear from a lot of countries is because of our language barrier, right? And it's like there is a piss load of sightings in what, the Himalayas, India, Pakistan. But the majority of those, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some pages in those languages in those countries where all that's going to be reported. For sure, right? Same as China. China has lots of sightings of their beings. You have to look for it though, right? And we don't have a lot of people from China chiming in on this channel. Obviously because of the language barrier. different countries. But we definitely have the West, right? Your typical Western countries chime in here all the time. We'll see. Maybe somebody's got some Tanzania experiences. We have had some crazy stuff come in from Africa, just not that much. But the question's been shared. Anyway, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get this frog out of my throat. Sarah found this. I don't even know what to call it. It's crazy, right? How the colors come out on that. So she got a bunch of those made. I think she's stuffing them in their store today. They got delivered while we were away, and I had to convince her to do this one. I got to put this on this one's going on my truck. I got a black truck. I want that on a t-shirt. That looks great. Stands right up, easy to see, right? Anyway, as the club continues to creep around the frickin' globe, nobody's sent me any conversations yet they've had. Excuse me, but I'll guarantee you, these are going to find people that don't know about this place and haven't told anybody the story. You mark my words. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And there's no clue what this is about on the sticker. There's no website, there's no link to a YouTube channel, there's nothing. It's just the fact that the person who's got this knows they're a member of that club and no return. Right? And there's many, many, many people around the world out there in the same club. Anyway, I'm sure my frog's driving you bonkers. I hate listening to people's frogs in their throats speak. It drives you frickin' nuts. So I'm going to get ripping and go climb under my truck and get dirty. Here we go. Sarah's flying out of here on Monday. And on and on. I'll be back again tomorrow. Hopefully smoother. Apologize for the throat. I don't know what's up. Probably dehydrated or something. I don't know. Share my story, howtohunt.com. The links for everything you're curious about are in the description below. All right? And I think somebody emailed me and said the inbox is full again. So I'll have to clear out a whole pile of emails out of my inbox. One of those or both. I don't know. I'll figure it out here in a bit. There you go. It's Friday. Do something you love to do this weekend, no matter what. All right? Do what you love to do, no matter frickin' what. This weekend. Talk to you later.